Very good evening and thanks for clicking on to the Wednesday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. I want to speak briefly about Iceland because it is often forgotten about up in that northeastern corner of the Atlantic. Back in December 2022, they actually endured the coldest December since 1974, and it has been a brutal winter so far actually up here in this North Atlantic island nation here. A stunning satellite image captured on the 4th of January shows a completely covered Iceland. And, I just wanted to kind of show you this here because it really is a spectacular image. And even through the first 18 days of January, it is running below normal, but it looks as if we are going to see a bit of a pullback even up here in the next week or so, because we are going to start to see the jet stream taking a little bit more of a stronger approach from the southwest, driving in milder air to this part of the world here. So I'm sure folks up here who are possibly tired of the several feet of snow that's on the ground, temperatures day by day below freezing, well below freezing, of course, by night time, it'll probably be welcome for some. But of course, at this very moment in time, it is cold across the British Isles. We've seen the latest feature to drop south. A little polar low dropped down through the North Sea during the last 12 to 24 hours, enhancing the snow showers across northern portions of the country here. Even here in Eventon, the snow showers have been pretty relentless actually since Sunday night. We've built up about a half a foot of snow on the ground. We've had a little bit of a warm up last night and through this morning, as that area of low pressure contained a little bit less cold air. But now that it's exiting, it's now dragging in colder air once again, and with a strong north wind and colder temperatures, we are seeing some renewed snow cover actually falling on top of the old stuff. So pretty decent winter conditions actually up here across the north and other parts as well. We're seeing that flow bringing snow showers to parts of northern England, down the west coast, around the Wirral. I know there's been several comments made about the snow cover around the Wirral, the Liverpool area and whatnot. And even, of course, across the far southwest of England, we've had a decent snowfall as well. But of course, the cold continues, but it's living on borrowed time, and we'll discuss that in just a second. I actually meant to talk briefly about Europe yesterday as well, but I ran out of time in last night's video. With the area of high pressure over the Azores, we've had systems riding the jet stream straight down into the north of Spain. We've had a real messy conditions across the northern portions of Spain, where we've had wind gusts actually along the coast of 109 miles per hour, and with any elevation we've had blizzard conditions and stinging northwest winds. So it's not just the UK, but also all the way down into southwestern Europe. Conditions have been bad. We've had a mix of rain, sleet, snow across many portions of mainland Europe, and over the next several days we will continue to see the snow cover grow, despite the fact that we're going to start to see it shrinking across the UK as we progress through the course of the weekend. It's going to be a slow process, introducing milder, specifically initially over the west and north, where we're going to start to increase the southwest winds, and then eventually the cold air will get kind of washed out as the Atlantic takes over. But it probably will take until even maybe Monday of next week before the southeast corner of England really gets removed from that cold air. So of course, up until now anyway, with the cold of this week, we are seeing temperatures slightly back below average across the northwest of Scotland, the bulk of England and Wales, as well as Ireland, average to above average conditions here. And of course, I've had January average to above average overall. So definitely we've seen that turn to colder conditions as we've progressed into the second half of the month. But I think as we progress towards the final 10 days of the month, we will start to see a moderation in conditions here overall as we progress onwards here. Certainly looking at the stratosphere, very interesting things going on at the moment here. As I speak, we're seeing that stretching, and the models are honing in more and more on a kind of at least two waves of intense heat, warmth within the 10 millibar level, pushing towards the pole, displacing the vortex. Of course, there's a lot of different processes that need to get taken into consideration, but the question is, do we get some sort of a similarity to the pattern in February of 2018 and March as well? Yeah, that was the beast from the east, of course, and we did see a sudden stratospheric warming during the early portion and middle portion of February that delivered that record-breaking cold spell at the end of February and into March here. I'm not jumping too quickly on that. I'm not wanting to be portrayed as hyping things up, but I'm very, very intrigued by what's going on, what the models are showing, with the potential of something interesting later down the road here. So let's have a quick look. This is off the GFS here, the latest operational run. And you notice here we've got another system riding the top of that high with the jet stream, of course, into the northern half of Iberia. So we continue these messy conditions, heavy snow across the Alps. Down into the Balkan region, we've got a really messy picture. We've got an area of low pressure over the Baltic states, bringing heavy snowfall to parts of Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, parts of Western Russia. We've also got a renewed push of colder air into Western Europe, or into Eastern Europe, should I say, sorry. We've also got another feature that's riding flow south that may enhance the snow showers yet again during the day tomorrow across the far north of the British Isles here. So snow cover continuing to mount up. We've got a good half foot to a foot, even 2 feet in some parts of the north as well. So, like I say, certainly winter is well entrenched over this region of the world. And this is 3 a.m. On Friday morning, by the way. While we've got the approach of this system here, that is the game changer over the weekend. We are going to see an area of high pressure developing. As this system exits, we have the approach of this Atlantic frontal system. Clear skies, light winds over the snow cover. I do expect to see temperatures drop to minus 12, possibly minus 13 degrees before we start to see the milder air moving in. And eventually that milder air will move in as we start to increase the winds from the southwest here. So we're starting to see a shift, slight deflation in the high over the Azores, over the eastern Atlantic. That is then forcing a little bit more of a dip with the trough. We're starting to change the orientation of the upper level flow, and what happens is we warm things up across the west northwest. Under high pressure, that cold air becomes trapped in place. Frost, fog, chilly days, possibly days below freezing, by the way, especially if the fog lingers through much of the day. At this time of the year, it is hard to shift fog in low-lying areas, especially with light winds, low sun angle and whatnot. So I reckon the cold is going to linger on into even the early portion of next week here. But of course, we've got a squeeze in the isobars, meaning we're going to have a fairly fresh to strong west to southwesterly wind, and we're going to see the temperatures warming up significantly here. And we're going to settle things down as well across western portions of mainland Europe. Also, we're going to shift with the area of high pressure kind of elongated between the Azores and Scandinavia. Chilly conditions across here, as well as western Russia, 1053 millibar high, 1042 millibar high. Colder across the north, milder conditions across the this region here of northwestern Britain and also Ireland. Also here, a lot of the messy conditions get transferred east over the mainland here, and then we're going to start to increase some rainfall as well. Couldn't think of what I'm saying there. But what is going to be interesting is how quickly we start to see the column warming up, especially over the snow-covered ground across the north. That milder conditions may not warm up just as quick, especially where you've got that snow-covered ground. Temperatures in the far north, despite Glasgow and Edinburgh maybe reaching double figures above freezing during the day on Saturday, we may still be stuck 2-3 degrees, say from Dalwhinnie, Aviemore northwards, where there's snow-covered ground. Temperatures tend to take a little bit longer to warm up, but what eventually will happen is as we progress through the weekend and into next week, we're going to see the snow cover getting eaten away by that milder air from the Atlantic. And then as we continue to play through, it looks as if we're going to have weather systems approaching western and northwestern areas, drier and brighter across the bulk of England and Wales here. And it looks as if high pressure becomes a lot more established and a lot more dominant through much of next week across the UK. And then we'll start to see possibly systems riding around the top of that area of high pressure. Let's have a quick look at the UK and the shift in the 850 temperature profile. Let's have a look. Sorry, let's have a look at the 2 meter temperature anomalies here, because it's always quite interesting to see how the models show this kind of breakdown in the cold pattern. Of course, cold across Spain, Portugal, France, into Belgium, slightly milder across Holland, if you notice here, Germany colder, and then of course Eastern Europe very, very warm compared to normal here. Of course, as you plunge colder south over Western Europe, you're generally pulling milder air up from the south further downstream of that. Continue to play through the loop. I think the coldest nights of the entire week come just ahead of that milder air moving in from the Atlantic. And then eventually what happens is we hold on to the cold air, especially across, over the snow cover of the north. I think we would have a lot more yellows and oranges showing up if we didn't have that snow-covered ground, helping refrigerate the lower atmosphere here. Ireland, Northern Ireland, especially void of snow cover, we're seeing the temperatures warm up quite nicely here. Chilly across the bulk of the UK, still on the early hours of Sunday morning, if you notice here, which is quite interesting. Very chilly conditions across France and Spain. And then eventually what happens is you start to see the milder air moving in. So we're starting to lose the snow cover, and we're starting to see the column. The warmer initially rides over the top of the colder, but eventually that kind of mixes down to the surface here, and will replace the cold with milder throughout the column here. But chilly air still lingering over the east and southeast of the country during Monday, as you can see here. And then eventually all of the UK will be in the mild conditions. It could turn very mild actually across the north as we progress in through Monday, and specifically Tuesday. I think we could see some very mild conditions across even the northern half of the British Isles. Still lingering cool, if you notice here, across the far south of the UK, holding chilly across Spain, France, Portugal as well, Low Countries. So yeah, that's it for today. I do appreciate you watching. As always, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. We will look at the stratosphere probably in the next video, and I will also endeavour to have a global weather and climate report in the next few days as well. And as promised, I did make mention that I would look at next summer at some point. I know you think that's probably ridiculous, but there is some interesting things, climatic drivers that may be starting to change in the run up to spring next, the upcoming spring season, that may have a significant burn on the summer of 2022-2023. So that's it for today, and I'll see you hopefully again tomorrow with more. Bye for now.